Morning, everyone. I hope that you are well, that you rested, but maybe not. And so this morning I thought I'd share a little bit about the importance of having a good moan every now and then, and that not just being a trivial thing, but actually a really important part of being ourselves. So I thought I'd begin by reading Psalm 44, which goes like this. We have heard with our ears, O God, our ancestors have told us, what deeds you performed in the days of old. You with your own hand drove out the nations, but them you planted. You afflicted the peoples, but them you set free. For not by their own sword did they win the land, nor did their own arm give them victory, but your right hand and your arm, and the light of your countenance, for you delighted in them. You are my King and my God. You command victories for Jacob. Through you we push down our foes. Through your name we tread down our assailants. For not in my bow do I trust, nor can my sword save me. But you have saved us from our foes, and have put to confusion those who hate us. In God we have boasted continually, and will give thanks to your name forever. Yet you have rejected us and abased us, and have not gone out with our armies. You made us turn back from the foe, and our enemies have taken spoil for themselves. You've made us like sheep for slaughter, and have scattered us among the nations. You have sold your people for a trifle, demanding no high price for them. You've made us the taunt of our neighbours, the derision and scorn of those around us. You've made us a byword among the nations, a laughingstock among the peoples. All day long my disgrace is before me at the words of the taunters and revilers, at the sight of the enemy and the avenger. All this has come upon us. Yet we have not forgotten you, or been false to your covenant. Our hearts have not turned back, nor have our steps departed from your way. Yet you have broken us in the haunt of jackals, and covered us with deep darkness. If we had forgotten the name of our God, or spread out our hands to a strange God, would not God discover this? For he knows the secrets of the heart. Because of you we are being killed all day long, and accounted as sheep for the slaughter. Rouse yourself. Why do you sleep, O Lord? Why do you hide your face? Awake, do not cast us off forever. Why do you forget our affliction and oppression? For we sink down to the dust. Our bodies cling to the ground. Rise up. Come to our help. Redeem us for the sake of your steadfast love. That's quite brave words, don't you think? It's a interesting hymn to sing on a Sunday morning if we were the Jewish community, the Israelite community. Many of you may well have taken part last night at 8 o'clock in a kind of an act of gratitude, an act of applause outside your home, from a window, a balcony, a doorway, wherever you were. And it seems to have been a very powerful thing for many people, both taking part in it and for those who are working on the front line in the National Health Service and in other places, parts of our community life and our nation's life. It's made a difference to the way that they feel this morning, and that's a wonderful thing. Rebecca went outside and did some clapping in the garden. I was finishing up putting Lucas to bed, and so I heard it, but didn't actually take part myself. And that's a wonderful thing. That's a good thing. It's good for us to do that. As a family, we have a sort of a habit of not saying prayers or grace when we eat our evening meal together, but when the food's on the table, we just pause for a moment, and everyone has a turn to say what they're grateful for, say thank you for, and some of us say thank you God for occasionally, and others don't, and that's fine. And Lucas, who's 5, of course, he just says the first thing that comes into his head so he can get to his chicken nuggets as fast as possible. But it's an important pattern in our family's life, saying thank you. It is, though, one of the sort of pervading myths within and outside the church, that Christians are just we're not supposed to have a good moan about things. We're not supposed to, not so much get upset, but we're supposed to contain that, and we're supposed to manage that. We're supposed to, marshal our wisdom and our reserves to always put on the best face we can. And there's some truth in that. We have to make wise decisions about our feelings. I don't think we choose our feelings. I think that part of growing up into maturity means learning to do to make good decisions about what we do with our feelings rather than whether we have them at all. And I know many people who've spent a long time in their lives judging the fact of their feelings without really asking what they might do creatively with those. The Psalms are full of moaning. It's one of the places in Scripture where we have permission to actually tell God off a little bit. And that psalm is one of the most direct and blunt expressions of frustration and anger and shame and disappointment towards God as the writer of that psalm, and then the people who used that together as they made sense of their lives and their experiences, and they tried to join the dots about what was happening when things were going really badly and who was to blame. I want to say to you today something that I know I've said in church, if you've been there, probably many times, that it's important for us to be ourselves. And sometimes that means not being grateful or struggling for gratitude. Sometimes that means giving voice to the things that we just want to have a good moan about, the things that are hard for us, the things that feel unfair or that frighten us, and we wonder what they mean, and we look around in this environmental crisis amongst other things, and we do want to blame, and sometimes that blaming is helpful and even necessary in some ways. So I don't know what you feel like having a moan about today, but today is a day, like every day, where there can be some room for moaning, for complaining, for being angry, for being frustrated, for whether it's God or the Prime Minister or, I don't know, don't want to just lump those two people together or those two beings together in one sentence as though there's some equality there. There are all kinds of people and things and systems and structures and experiences and that just seem fundamentally unfair or not as we think they should be. We see people playing games, sometimes with other people's lives. And that's unfair. And we should feel that. We should be angered by that. Of course, we have to be careful with our moaning, because a moan can turn into something destructive quite quickly. We can settle into patterns of moaning that reinforce our ideas about who's good and who's bad and who's right and who's wrong. And that hardens us and narrows us down to the mystery of beauty and love and the possibility even of goodness in every human being. We also need to be careful in these lockdown times that we moan carefully around those who share our lives. Our children learn a lot from the conversations we have about the world and how it works and what judgment looks like and means. And of course, those who share our homes at this time, if we do have other people in our homes, they of course are having their own day, whatever it looks and feels like. And even if we're not moaning about them, that moan might be attritional for them. It might not help them, might not contribute to their own fragility and their own frailty and their own needs on the day. So there's always a bit of a balance to strike, and sometimes we only learn what that is by making mistakes and apologizing for them. I guess today, as we read that psalm, as we think about last night and all that it meant for people to applaud the NHS and others on the front line, let's also leave room for the strong feelings we have in other directions that are not as positive, that are about a deep sense of unfairness or even our fears giving voice to frustration and anger. Those things are okay. There's no reason why they shouldn't be there or we should feel bad about them being there, and we need to decide wisely what we do with them. But if you've not felt that it was appropriate to have a good moan as part of your praying or just venting at the universe, then today you're allowed to do that. Every day you're allowed to do that. Yeah. Find something to throw at something, hit something with a stick, I don't know, something that won't get hurt, or say ow when you do that. But I don't want to trivialize this. It's really important for us to give voice to our deep negative emotions as well, and to do that in ways that set us free and that ask the big questions that we have about what it means to be alive in this moment, and who's looking out for who, and what that means, and where our disappointments are when it comes to all that community is and has been and might become in the future. We're always going to be working at what it means to love each other. So happy Moaning Day, if that's something you want to do today, and happy Moaning Day every day. Careful moaning, careful and considered moaning, but let's not lose frankly the health benefits and the spiritual and emotional and psychological benefits, the mental health benefits of giving voice to the things that deeply frustrate us or that we're angry about. So have a moan, see how it goes, and be careful about how you do that and where you do that and who's around you when you do. Even if you want to write something down, scrunch up some paper, throw it against the wall, be creative with your moaning. Find a way of giving physical voice, if you need to the things that are your frustrations today and your worries and your fears. It's important to do that. And the Psalms tell us that God makes room for that. And it's okay to do that. So loving God, bless us in our moaning. Bless us in our complaining. Bless us in our fears. Bless us in our anxieties. Bless us in our disappointments. Bless us in all the things that today will be our negative emotions, that we might find new ways of giving voice to, because somehow when we do that, we encounter ourselves and you, and maybe the people who share our lives a little more deeply. Help us to learn from our mistakes. Help us to apologize where we need to, for the way that our moaning affects other people sometimes. But remind us again that we are not in the presence of royalty when we are with you. There is no great code of conduct that we must live up to, no set of right behaviors or right attitudes or right feelings, that you ask us to be ourselves and you love us as we are. Amen. Have a lovely day. Have a happy day. Have a moaning day. See you tomorrow.